Hello, Mets fans, and welcome to another edition of the Just Mets podcast. My name is Andrew Claudio. That is Rich MacLeod, and we are here to recap the last week in the world of the New York Mets. And it's both a move that they made and a bunch of moves they didn't make. And we're also going to count down the best moments of 2025, which, believe it or not, there were some good moments of 2025. We're going to try and keep the holiday spirit in a good mood today, and definitely not go through a worst moments of 2025, because that's a 6 or 7 parter. Follow Just Mets on all socials. Just search for Just Mets. It's got an underscore somewhere in the title, so you follow us on all socials. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast feed, Apple or Spotify. 5 stars, that'd be great. Subscribe on the YouTube channel and check out the Just Mets newsletter on Substack and on Patreon. Check out our bonus episode later this week. Got through the social plugs. Rich MacLeod, how are you today, sir?
I am good, Andrew. We are here. It is Christmas countdown season at this point. Don't think Die Hard's a Christmas movie, but I watched it today anyways because it was there and it was fun. And I'm just excited.
So you watched a Christmas movie today, is what you're saying?
I watched an action movie that came out in July.
Even though it was made in the production of the movie, it was made with Christmas in July, or Christmas in LA was the pitch in the studio meeting for Die Hard.
Yeah. We don't need to make this into a Die Hard Christmas movie pod.
It's because I'm right. That's all.
Agree to disagree.
Is Home Alone a Christmas movie?
Yes, I think that they are different things. I know that's the people like to lump them together, but I think Home Alone is more Christmas than Die Hard is Christmas centric.
Mm-hmm. But I honestly, I just like having the debate to bother you. I don't care if people think it's either a Christmas movie or not. I think, like you said, it's the greatest action movie in my opinion.
It's a great movie, and that's all that matters. So yeah, in this holiday spirit, there's eggnog in the fridge here with the family. It's a fun time.
You know, it'd be great if John McClane went to LA and brought Edwin Diaz back to the New York Mets.
There we go.
Didn't just went and get his wife, but actually brought the Mets their closer back. I'm doing well. Won my fantasy championship for fantasy football today.
Congratulations.
The Clandy crew, as it's so aptly named, went 14-2 this year and was a bit of a juggernaut. So shout out to fantasy football. I know everybody cares how my team did specifically in fantasy football. And those are just some of the good moments. Watching Die Hard, winning fantasy football, the great moments of 2025 that had nothing to do with the New York Mets. But later on today, we will count down some moments in the year of 2025 that we do remember and want to remember as we count down some of the best moments of the year. But there was some news this week, Rich. There's 3 moves in particular that were made that were Mets adjacent. And I'm just basically going to ask you, are you annoyed that the Mets didn't make those moves? So we'll start with the one that happened just a couple of hours ago. Wilson Contreres, catcher turned first baseman, was traded to the from the St. Louis Cardinals, from former Red Sox president Chaim Bloom, who's now running the Cardinals. Made a second trade with his old team this offseason. First trading Sonny Gray, now trading Wilson Contreres to the Boston Red Sox. The names of the players going back in the deal. I am looking to pull this up now. Rich, do you have it right in front of you?
I don't. Hunter Dobbins is the biggest name of the bunch. I did some very. I have
the passing tweet up now if you need me to.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so it's right-handed pitcher Hunter Dobbins, which, to your point, is the highest ranked or best name of the bunch. Right-handed pitcher. Really wish I didn't agree to read the names. Hoiker Fajardo, and then right-handed pitcher Blake Aida. Those are the 3 names going back to the St. Louis Cardinals. The Red Sox get Wilson Contreres and $8 million to cover part of the remaining $41.5 million in salary. The other 2 names that were moves that happened earlier this week. Michael King re-signed with the San Diego Padres, a 3-year, $75 million deal. There's an opt-out after each of the 2 years. The first 2 years of the contract. So it could end up being a 1-year, $22 million deal. And then earlier today, Munetaka Murakami signed with the Chicago White Sox, a 2-year, $17 million deal. It's a straight 2-year with no opt-outs. So his
2 for 34.
What did I Wait, what did
17.
I say?
I think you said.
Oh, did I say 2 for 17? The AAV 2 for 34. Yeah. So it's each year at 17 million. Is what Murakami ends up getting. The follow-up from Bob Nightingale was that the next thing for the Chicago White Sox is that they're going to look to trade Luis Robert for pitching depth and are engaged with the Mets and the Cincinnati Reds. So the three moves that did happen that didn't involve the Mets this week. Rich MacLeod, are you upset that the Mets didn't do all of, if not any, of these three moves?
I actually think it's kind of like a Mama Bear, Papa Bear, Baby Bear kind of thing, like too hot, too cold, and in the middle.
Okay.
So I'll just rip through them. Contreres, not super upset about, but thought that still would have made sense for them. And especially with like Polanco, like you can make Polanco be mostly the DH. Contreres can be your right-handed first baseman. He's a good glove. He still hits 20 home runs a year. Pretty solid bat. And those guys can kind of swap in and out based on what you need. So that would have been nice. I know he's being paid a lot of money, but he's only owed money for the next 2 seasons, so it seems like he fits what the Mets are trying to do this winter for whatever reason. They don't do that, and it just shrinks the available options even more for them at first base, as did the signing of Murakami with the White Sox. That one I'm not particularly upset about. I still didn't really want him. I will say pretty surprised that this is all he got. It seemed like he had a really suppressed market. Maybe people really were worried about those, whiff stats in Japan. He went from a guy who a year ago, people thought he was going to be the biggest, most highly coveted international free agent we've seen in quite a while from the position player side. And he settles for a, pretty modest 2-year deal with one of the worst teams in baseball. Not super upset about that. I think it actually makes a lot of sense for him and the White Sox, kind of like low pressure. He'll be a free agent by the time he's 27 and can get paid for real. So it makes sense for them. Not very upset about that. Michael King was a huge bummer for me personally. That was a guy that I had a lot of interest in the Mets bringing in this entire offseason. I felt like he made the most sense as a guy to sign into the rotation in addition to a potential trade that you could make. Again, I've been saying for the last few months, like I think they need 2 arms in that rotation. You can move the other guys around as you need to make room for that at a later date. So the fact that he goes back to the Padres, which funny enough there's not a single report out there that suggested he was going back. Quite the contrary, honestly. Like most of the reporters had said he was looking to come to the East Coast. The Yankees that were mentioned, the Red Sox, the Mets, I think another team or two.
Baltimore
winds up going back to the Padres. I would assume it's essentially a 1-year deal unless he, gets really injured this year or just has a really bad year. He's got some insurance to get paid the following 2 seasons, but this is probably a 1-year deal, and he becomes a free agent again in a year. And maybe the Mets will have another shot at him. But I was bummed out. I thought he fit what they wanted to do. It's only 3 seasons, but if you want to make the argument, don't give up a draft pick for a guy who's probably going to be a free agent in a year, even if you can re-sign him. I get it. It's just, again, like in the grand picture of the offseason, you can make, the arguments against things the Mets have done or have not done. But when you add them all up, it's like the team is not very good right now. So it's just like another one of those for me.
Yeah, you hit it. There's a lot of, I can understand why you didn't. I'm kind of confused why you didn't, though. It's one of those, would have appreciated if you did give a flyer to Murakami, although it makes sense to let him go someplace that is low stakes. And one thing just to add on to what you said, if he's got like a 950 OPS at the trade deadline, that's actually a very attractive contract to trade for the White Sox.
That is true.
Like 1 year, 17 million, and you get the beginning of the back half or 2 months of his first year as well. So there is a world where he proves himself in the first 4 months of his major league stint and becomes the most coveted free agent or coveted trade piece for teams that might need first baseman, kind of like the Mets, who currently don't have a first baseman on the roster. I'm fine with them not signing Murakami, even if like a low risk, short term deal, low value like that, I would have understood if they did decide to do it. The Contreres one, again, it would have made a lot of sense to go to the Mets. They're just with trades, it always comes down to if you're not giving up like a super high prospect, and according to the reporting, none of the prospects that went back to St. Louis are top 100. So the Mets would have had to give up somebody higher value or maybe ate the entire contract. It could just be that Boston likes the players that they've been scouting in St. Louis more than any other team. And it could also just be that they like working with Chaim Bloom, their former employee, more so. So there's that element to it. We share the same annoyance about Michael King, but I also understand not giving up the draft pick. It really just does go to the much larger picture of, so then who? And
right, who's the guy that you are willing to go after? And
yeah, there's been a lot of like hands off this offseason and discipline. And look, I want to give David Stern some credit, because a year ago, one of my biggest frustrations, in fact, Rich, what do you think was the worst signing of last offseason for the Mets?
It's Frankie Montas, which they jumped the market on. And he was the first move they did. Like,
let's get Frankie Montas in here. We have to jump in and lock up that rotation spot. So I actually appreciate him waiting to see if maybe a 1+1 for Framber Valdez becomes available. I would do that if I were the Mets. A 1+1 high AAV for a year. He gets to opt out and test free agency, similar to what Blake Snell did, what Jordan Montgomery was supposed to do until he fell off his performance fell off a cliff, unfortunately. But like, I understand now waiting to do something. It does now like force the market to come back to you, because then there's a world if like Kyle Tucker and Cody Bellinger don't come your way, and if Framber Valdez gets the 5-6 year contract he wants, then what are we looking at? Like Lucas Giolito potentially becomes the Mets' best option to upgrade their pitching. They're just going to run it back with the same rotation that was the reason the season fell apart last year. So it just leaves more questions as to what their actual plan is. And I think you kind of hit it 2 weeks ago when we were reacting to the ground zero of free agency, of winter meetings, of like, is this a sneaky transition year? And they didn't want to tell us. So yeah, it leaves more questions, even if it's not the worst thing in the world that they didn't make any of these moves this week.
Yeah, I agree. It's, by the way, it's not on the rundown, but I actually wanted to hurl something at you that just made me think of this. Just the Mets messaging this offseason and what they're telling us and what they're doing. Did you have any reaction to the Steve Cohen tweets from a couple days ago? If for those who aren't familiar, by the way, there was a New York Post article that came out right before the weekend, seeming to suggest that the Mets payroll was going to slightly go down from where it was last year. Some people started getting nervous about it, and Steve Cohen very quickly ripped off a couple tweets, his first two tweets since the regular season came to an end. I don't know if you have those pulled up if we want to actually read them.
Have him ready. He replied, or not replied to anything. He just tweeted out, Steve Cohen, as typical, the usual idiots misinterpreting a Post article on Mets payroll for 26. I can't imagine our payroll to be lower than last year. It's always hard to predict, but that would be my best guess. Then he replies with a second one a couple minutes later. Payroll watchers always forget to budget for waiver claims, player movement from minors and to majors, and trade deadline moves. That's how it typically works. He replied to a reply in the first tweet. Someone said, "So sorry that these media shills make things worse." Steve replied, "Yes, I fell for that. I was just referencing to a few media shills creating a false narrative on spending. I would never dismiss the fans and the emotions they are going through." At least you understand your fan base is going through it this offseason, Mr. Cohen. My reaction is that if he's just trying to point out a technicality of like, actually, by the end of the fiscal year, we will be higher because we have payroll waiver claims and we have a trade
arbitration,
right? Like, if you're just pointing out a spreadsheet clarification, then I don't care, and I would like for you to be a little more aggressive this offseason. If he's like, if the original tone of this was, why are you judging my payroll on December 19th when this interaction happened? Then, okay, like show me. Show me the Cody Bellinger signing. Show me the Kyle Tucker signing. Show me the Framber Valdez signing.
Show me the money.
Quite literally, show me the money, Steve Cohen. If that's where this is headed, then I'm team Cohen. And this probably leads to the next question here. If I'm staring at the next big acquisition that the Mets make, being Luis Robert in center field, like, is that something that does that wet your beak, as Mr. Macri would say, and maybe inappropriate reference, but still at least it fits here. Like, does that satisfy our desire for them to make another impact move this offseason?
I mean, I would be down with the Mets trading for Luis Robert Jr.
Am I saying it wrong?
Yes.
It's Robert. It's not Robert. Did I make it French for no reason whatsoever?
You're adding a little bit of spice to it.
Okay. I'm going to shout out the Mets Up Pod to Giraffe Neck Mark and Shiana. They've always said Robert. And so I'm just going to say Robert and say, like, Just Mets declares it Robert. Okay. It's Luis Robert. You guys can say Robert and put a tilde where there isn't, but I will acknowledge that our official pronunciation is Robert. And if he gets traded to the Mets, we'll get to hear Gary, Keith. Well, we'll get to hear Gary and Ron say it. No confirmation on Keith yet. But we'll get to hear Gary say it appropriately, and we'll figure it out. Yes.
Yeah. If the Mets trade for Robert, I'd be fine with it, assuming they don't give up anything ridiculous, on the grounds that they still bring in another bigger bat somewhere. And would I be confident that they're going to do that? No, that would be what would worry me, because if you bring in Robert, you'd be paying Robert, Jorge Polanco, and Marcus Semien a combined $65 million in 2026. And those are like three okay to decent players. That's a lot of money. And even for this team, because they look like they're trying to save some bucks, especially when it comes to like long-term stuff. So it would just be yet another, okay, but what next move? And it's like, I don't know. I would just love to see a move that actually, it tells me where we're going here. I guess if there's so many moves that are just like, what next? What next? Like, after a certain number of those, and I don't know what that number is, it's like, oh, this is it. We're firmly in that middle path that we have discussed. And it's kind of like a retool, maybe we'll be good, but maybe not kind of year. So like, yeah, I would be conditionally okay with the Robert thing if there's more to come, but I wouldn't be super confident. Like, I could very much see them trading for him and they're like, all right, like, this is the team, at least position player wise, which I wouldn't be happy about.
Which would then put, I mean, we'll see what happens with Jeff McNeil, but like, there's a world he's your opening day left fielder, or Tyrone Taylor's in center, and Robert is in left. Like,
well, Robert will be your center fielder, and I bet Benj probably winds up in left. I would still think that McNeil's gone even then.
I know what David Stearns has said. I'm beginning to not trust anything he says. I'm beginning to just wait to see what happens. And some of that, like, to his credit, is the Mets don't really leak much. So for all we know, he's saying, yeah, Carson Benj is good enough to play the outfield because he's trying to boost his value on the market. I do just want to look at the major league roster right now, not the full 40, and say, like, okay, Jeff McNeil has played left field in the past. Yeah, I can't believe I'm going to say this name. Could end up being a smaller trade, like a Lars Nootbaar ending up as your opening day left fielder as well. Look, we're not excited about this.
If I hear Lars Nootbaar's fucking name, no disrespect, Mr. Nootbaar, my God, I will lose my mind irrationally.
No disrespect, Mr. Nootbaar is an outstanding sentence that you just said. Yeah.
In another world, that could be the title of this episode, but we actually have a thing to talk about.
Exactly. We're going to remember the good times of this year as it ends in confusion and annoyance. Look, I'm doing my best to try and be patient. That the market, there's still many moves they can make in 2026. Many moves between now and the end of 2025 that could really spin this offseason into a much more positive. I am not as frustrated by these three moves. I think it's the big takeaway, while also now being curious about what's next. The move they did make this week that I haven't had a chance to fully react to was the Luke Weaver signing. The Mets signed Luke Weaver to a 2-year, $22 million deal. I know you reacted a little bit to this with Disha. Thank you, Disha, again for coming on the Just Mets Patreon pod. Any extended thoughts? And if you want to make it about the Yankee element of it, that these two franchises keep signing their former players, you can. But as far as Luke Weaver and his impact for the Mets next year, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like the signing of Weaver. I was supposed to have had words for this on the off-season coffee show, which no one will ever hear because the audio did not get recorded over the weekend. So that was cool. But I like the signing. I think if he's replacing Ryan Stanek, it's fantastic. I think if he's your setup man, it's more of a coin flip. I think he could still do well in that role. It's just great year in 2024. Started off great, got hurt, and was bad when he came back from the injury this past year. So it's just like, let me see you bounce back from that. But we know he can pitch in New York. That we actually don't have that question with him because he's done it, unlike Devin Williams, where we haven't seen it yet. So I like the move. Modest money. He was a guy that I put in our free agency guide on the newsletter who I was interested in. In terms of the Yankee thing of it all, I find that very fun. Apparently, that only goes one way because the only Yankee moves this offseason have been Ahmed Rosario and Paul Blackburn. At least when the Mets sign Yankee players, they're actually good. The Yankees seem to love former crappy Mets who are modest improvements, if anything, for them. So I hope the Mets continue to take Yankee players because it's clearly affecting that fan base in a very funny way to me. And a year later, the effects of the Soto signing are still very much in play here.
So I'm going to be a little different. Oh, hold on. We fully agree on the impact of a Luke Weaver signing. I said it in my Mets therapy review or reaction. If this is a replacement for Stanek, I'm game. If it's, oh, great, we have our setup man now, our Devin Williams insurance, if he can't pitch in New York, you just recreated the 2025 Yankees bullpen, which needed to make multiple moves at the deadline to get better. So I don't fully believe in that plan. If you have one more or two more moves coming, I'm for it. Fine. The Yankee side of this, I can't. I have to be honest with myself. I'd make the exact same jokes if like the Yankees just started signing former Mets that were impact Mets to go play for them. I would absolutely be making the same joke. So I understand them trying to make it the same way. I do look at...
You know where that comes from.
What?
It's copium. It's to make yourself feel better.
So that's really where I wanted to go with this. It's like, so if it's a player that Yankee fans didn't want, then it's like, oh, wow, you took our failed closer. Good luck with that. You took Luis Severino. Good luck with that. The Mets, to their credit, like Clay Holmes had an outstanding year as like a number 4 starter last year, a converted starter. My goodness, what Severino was when he got to the Mets is like a 1-year flyer and then became a dependable playoff arm that ended up getting a 3-year contract from the Athletics at the end of the day. If you name an arm, a player they didn't want anymore, that's fine. Yeah. Bring up Juan Soto, and it's like, wait, we wanted him. Don't take him. Bring up the prospect, the 16-year-old international prospect that had just signed
another one
with the Yankees that the Mets took away from them. Like, that's not something you want. Name Cody Bellinger and see the, wait a minute, don't take Cody Bellinger. So I think it's fair game. The Yankees have been a successful team for the majority of my lifetime. I don't care that they keep signing guys or potential impact players that don't want to move and they get to go play for a team that is just on a different borough that has less traffic. I think the Yankee element of it is more funny and more for us than it is like an actual. Listen, the Stearns and Cashman should charge each other finder's fees because you found this player. I got to see what he looks like over there for free within my own market. I didn't have to travel or send scouts anywhere. I just had to watch, like, change the channel to another local network. And now I get to sign. The Paul Blackburn thing was also very fun.
That's hilarious.
We unlocked something in him because of the last 12 innings that were all low leverage. Okay, good luck with that. Just like they're saying good luck with Devin Williams with us. Like, I also have questions about the Devin Williams thing. So sure. I think it's fair game both ways.
Yeah, last thing on that is just the funniest thing I saw this past week was that now deleted video from a Yankee fan who at the end of it, she was very upset that the Mets took Luke Weaver because she liked Luke Weaver, was a big fan of his, and said to the Mets and Mets fans, find your own players, which is so like deliciously funny to me for the fan base whose entire brand for 25 years was, we're going to take your best player away from you and rub it in your face. And now it's like, LOL, you took our player from us. You suck. It's like, how about you keep your own players? Like, the way it is completely flipped in the last 12 months, I just find extremely funny. It doesn't mean the Mets are going to be better than the Yankees, but the mindset, I think, has shifted there, and I'm enjoying that part of it. It's very funny to me.
I wish you nothing but enjoyment of that part of it this holiday season, Rich. I very much hope you get to enjoy, especially because I hope the next thing you enjoy is Cody Bellinger going to the Mets. And do you want to make that the new confidence meter? What's your confidence that Cody Bellinger goes to the Mets?
Like 40% probably.
Oh, I'm so much lower. So much lower. I'm like at 10% that the Mets get Cody Bellinger.
Maybe it's the holiday spirit in me.
Okay.
But it's still less than 50%, less than a coin flip chance.
What's Kyle Tucker?
Yeah, 5.
Okay, it's 5% more than me. I think the only way he ends up being a Met, maybe it's 1%, and it's that he'll do the Bregman contract, a 1+1. You know, I also don't think Bregman is going to be a Met. I don't think Cody Bellinger is going to be a Met. I don't think Kyle Tucker is going to be a Met. I'll be pleasantly surprised, but I think I'm telling you, I think we're headed for transition season where the move they make is Luis Robert, Carson Bench is your opening day left fielder. I did it again. Luis Robert, Carson Bench is your opening day left fielder with a platoon with Jeff McNeil, and that's your 2025 New York Mets. 2026 New York Mets.
Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln.
How was the play? Okay. We're going to talk about 2025 and the best moments. So we've narrowed it down to moments, not games, not wins, not losses that may have had good moments in them. We're going to narrow it down and each select 3, our favorite moments of 2025. Because I'm in the holiday spirit, I'm going to let you go first and take the first Mets moment of 2025 that you consider the best Mets moment of 2025.
So are we counting from 3 up to 1, or
no? You're not listing them. It's a draft.
Okay,
you're not naming your 3, 2, 1. It's you get to list. You get to take the first one. I can't take. It's off the board, but we'll talk about it when we do. You get the first pick in the Mets moments of 2025 draft.
Okay, that helps me make this pick. I think it's the best pick, at least in terms of moments of the season. It's the moment that the vibes were last at their highest, and it's when the Mets swept the Phillies at Citi Field in August. It was that moment to me felt like 2024. It kind of reminded me of their run in 2019 that fell flat. It also reminded me of 2015 the most, when they swept the Nationals at Citi Field. I believe that was in July, and that's when they wound up tying for first place, which they never relinquished that season. This felt a lot like that to me. I think we were all very much out on the team before that. When that happened, it was all of a sudden like, holy shit, we're back. We're in the Phillies' heads. We beat them in the playoffs last year. They had swept them earlier this season. They swept them again. Alec Boehm's complaining about parabolic microphones. The Phillies pitchers are like melting down on the mound. They're whining to the umpires about getting squeezed. It was a real thing. I was so bad in Philly. I was listening to WIP the next morning of every day because they were like starting to really sweat for the first time in about a month at that point. And I will not forget the fact that the Mets, of course, instantly pissed that away by losing 3 of 4 to the Marlins that weekend.
Best moments. We got to keep
talking about best moments. And in confined to those 3 days, which had a couple of comebacks, you had the Nimmo walk-off against Yohan Duran, and then they kind of just like beat down the Phillies in that last game with an awesome Nolan McLean performance. To me, that was probably the most fun the Mets were at any point after June last year.
I think it would have been my first pick too. The fact that it coincided with the Nolan McLean 8 innings of shutout ball. The fact that it was what still exists, by the way, a continuation of a winning streak at Citi Field against the Phillies for the New York Mets that also dates like through the playoffs, through last season. The last time they lost against the Phillies at Citi Field was a Friday night during the last month of their last homestand, their last series at home during the 2024 season. And I believe it's also something crazy like 11 out of 12. Like it goes into 2023 as well, how far back it goes. That series in 2024, they won 3 out of 4 against the Phillies. So, it was just the one win. And then you'd have to go back even further for the previous Phillies victory. So, yeah. The fact that they were able to do that those 3 days, they cut the division lead down to 4. They also came back from a deficit in game 1 in that series, which coincided with the parabolic mic moment, and then they blew out the team. They also beat the Phillies 2 of their 3 best pitch. No, they beat Sanchez too. That's right. They beat Sanchez, Luzardo, and I forget who pitched the other game. But regardless, the Mets took all 3, and that all disappeared when they went to Philly a month later. But yeah, that was the high point for me. We got a good moment from Nimmo, probably his last big moment as a New York Met outside of the home run he hit against Chicago the last week of the season. But yeah, I will always celebrate a victory over Philly. So that would have been my first pick as well. I'm going to pick a moment for my first pick that happened a couple weeks earlier. Actually, it might have been the end of July. When did Pete hit his home run against the Braves?
I believe that was July.
Yeah, it was in July. I'm gonna pull up the series because it very much is a moment that went away very quickly. But Pete Alonso setting the Mets' career home run record, a record he still has, and unless he comes back at the end of his career, will probably not be able to add on to in the future. He hit a rope to right field, one of those patented Pete Alonso line drives that just never decided to have any deceleration at any point. It was in the midst of a stretch in which the Mets were... Their winning streaks were so weird this year because they were always erased by losing streaks of almost the exact same amount. So
yeah.
They opened the second half of the season famously losing 2 out of 3 to the Reds during David Wright number retirement weekend. Then they won 7 straight games. Then they lost 3 straight, one on my birthday, or the day before my birthday, then lost... Jesus, I'm now recapping the season. They lost 11 of their next 12. I don't want to do this on the Best Moments pod. Then they came home to play the Atlanta Braves, and they won 13-5. And Pete Alonso hit a home run in this game.
And we won't talk about the other 2 games from that series at all.
We will continue to make this the Best Moments pod. So, Pete Alonso hits, actually, if I remember, he hit 2. Yeah, they hit a second. He hit the record breaker and then set a new record the next night. This is all off of Spencer Strider. It was a laugher that the Mets needed. This was... Looking back, I probably should have understood that this was the only reason that he was coming back to the New York Mets was to break the record and then, move on with his career. So yeah, I'm glad we got that moment with Pete Alonso. And I'm glad it happened at home too.
Yeah, I think we deserved that as fans, and I'm glad that Steve Cohen stepped in the previous offseason in the face of the Fan Fest stuff, which I truly believe was a contributing factor to the pressure, because I believe Alonso signed within maybe a week from that happening. Yeah, I think the fans deserved it. It was like the last true coronation of Pete. And the fact that his Mets career started setting a record, and it, kind of ends setting a record, and does both of those at Citi Field as well. It's a nice moment for him. I wish he could have gotten the opportunity to really pile on and see where he could finish with the Mets. And obviously we're not going to see that, but it was earned. And I mean, those things don't happen very often. It's probably going to be a while before we get another one of these like major milestone career Met records from anybody.
Yeah. It'll be a while before it's a home run Met. I assume Lindor and Soto will be toward the top of a lot of Mets leaderboards. Should Soto be here his whole 10, 15 years. I do think you're right that it'll be a while before a Met, because of how now Nimmo and Pete being gone, it'll be a while before we see some all-time records be broken. But
yeah,
this was a night to appreciate Mets history. Ironically, we had some moments during the season to appreciate Mets history between... are we putting David Wright getting his number retired on? I didn't even have it as an honorable mention because they lost the game and the game was just such a slog as is.
Yeah, I guess I'd classify that as something different.
Okay. We're doing on-field moments then.
Yeah.
Okay.
It would be here, I think, if we were counting that kind of stuff. But I was more thinking of stuff that happened in actual games.
Yep. I agree. That's my first pick though. Pete hitting the record-breaking home run. You're up.
Yeah. I would argue too that those are the two most obvious picks, and now I think it gets really interesting and super subjective. And to be frank, like, we didn't pre-discuss this. We're truly going off the cuff here, and I've got a list, you've got your list, and there's so many ways I could go here, and I'm trying not to factor in what happened after the fact, like what was it like in the moment. And I really want to say Clay Holmes game 161 special, but I don't think I can justify doing it because even in the moment, I knew what was going to happen the next day just based on the history alone. So I'm going to throw that in as an honorable mention. Thank you, Clay Holmes and John Mayne.
Hold on. I might get to pick it. You can't mention honorable mentions when the draft's not over yet. How many drafts have you done that you could just say, I'm going to pick this one, but not pick this one as an honorable mention?
I'm shouting it out because I don't think you're going to pick it.
Well, now I can't. Maybe I want to now.
If you want to, you
put
can.
It on the board. Go ahead. I'm probably not going to take it. That weekend was terrible.
I'll leave it out there, but that's one of the ones I was considering. I'm going to go with Nolan McLean's major league debut against the Mariners. Again, another moment of just promise, and maybe this is going to turn the season around kind of vibes, similar to the Philly stuff, and also just felt really big in the moment beyond the season itself. Was this kind of like, hey, we haven't had a big homegrown pitcher coming up from the minors and making their debut with this much anticipation, I would say, since that 2015 era, when you had, obviously it's Harvey and Wheeler and DeGrom before that. But in 2015, you also had Syndergaard and you had Steven Matz. We really haven't, it's been a big gap there, since then. It's really been like David Peterson, who was, people were like, he's like a middle to back end of the rotation guy, most likely. And then Christian Scott, who came up in a kind of crappy season, has yet to get his first major league win. And, winds up getting Tommy John surgery. So McLean coming up was like, had a lot of anticipation with it. just for that reason. And he got on the mound on Saturday afternoon, I believe, against the Seattle Mariners, and he was awesome. I think when you saw him make that behind the back play with the bases loaded to get out of a huge jam, you're like, oh, this dude's got a little something to him. And he had a great debut and a fantastic rookie season. He will be a rookie again this year, so I believe he'll be a front runner for Rookie of the Year. And he really kind of did wind up having a very like Matt Harvey vibe to him. And yeah, that was a big moment for me for a lot of reasons. It felt like maybe they'll save the season for this. And if not, this is just a huge moment for this franchise as a potential homegrown ace has finally arrived.
So to do a little bit of prep for today's show, I went through the MLB app to try and find the days that stood out on the schedule. And like, you've now named 2 Nolan McLean starts, and I'm remembering his start in Detroit, his start in Atlanta, his starts. I think those are actually those are his final wins of the season. Those are the 4 that he had. And no, he had one in Chicago too.
That was his one struggle game. Yeah.
So remembering the good moments of the second half of the season. And I also tried to remind myself just how freaking good he was too. The numbers that he had on the season. I'm going to pull him up now. Where he was before the Chicago start, the last start he made on the season. I think it's important to recognize that if he's this in 2026, then the Mets have found their ace. Now, he finished the season with a 5-1 record and a 2.06 ERA. In 48 innings, he had 57 strikeouts. He was outstanding. Before the Chicago start, so he had made 7 starts so far. He had thrown 42 innings to this point and had a 1.27 ERA to that point. And even in his last start that he gave up 5 runs, he had 11 strikeouts. So you don't want to fully exclude it. He made 2 bad pitches that night.
To Seiya Suzuki.
Yeah. He gave up 3 home runs, but he gave 2 to Seiya Suzuki. And like, so the ERA went up. The overall FIP still was like outstanding. The 2.97 FIP for the season. If he's this in his, what will officially be his rookie season, obviously you have to account for like rookie walls and, you know, needing for playoff experience. But yeah, it'll answer a lot of questions for the Mets if they did actually find an ace and he got called up last August. I would love to pair him with someone else. Maybe they're waiting to do that in free agency of 2027 when the market is much richer. But he absolutely is worthy of being 2 picks so far in this draft. So I co-sign the sentiment of how good Nolan McLean was, especially on his debut last season. Rich. Yeah. Now I get to pick one.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I'm going to go to a place that I told you you didn't think of in the little cheat sheet that you made in the list of names, a list of moments. So I'm actually going to go to a place. Yeah, I'm actually going to go to a place that I think the vibes were the highest and the least diminished by on-field play. Okay. It's on February 22nd. It was their first spring training game. I'm going to Juan Soto's first at-bat.
Wow.
During spring training, because the Mets went to the NLCS last year and then they signed Juan Soto. They end up signing Pete Alonso despite the president of baseball operations contests, and they end up bringing the fan favorite back. And now we just get to enjoy that Juan Soto is a New York Met. And in his first at bat with the New York Mets, he gets a standing ovation and then goes opposite field in Port St. Lucie at Clover Park. Still don't know why it's called Clover Park, but I'm sure a Google search will fix that. I'm actually fine not ever knowing.
It's a brand.
Or it's someone like Jim Clover decided he wanted to name a ballpark after himself. Who knows? Regardless, that home run had me ready for like an outstanding Mets season. And there's another moment during the season that involves Soto that I may end up taking later, but I think this one in particular was when the vibes were the highest in anticipation for me. So if I can take every Mets fan back to February, remember how high you were and what this season could be, that's at least the highest it was for me. Little did we know what was about to happen. But yeah, the first time we got to see Juan Soto taking at bat in a Mets uniform was during spring training, and it ended in a home run. So that'll be my second pick, Rich.
I will say, not a great indicator of what the season was when a spring training moment is making the list in the first 4 picks.
We are talking about the best moments of one of the worst seasons. So we're trying to find moments, right? I went to one that had nothing to do with the actual season that I hated watching. So
we're scraping the bottom of the barrel here. All right, this is my last pick. Man, again, it's just like, where do I want to go with it? I think the one I'm going to go to is it's just one that I think of when you ask, like, it was like a cool moment in 2025. And most of those obviously came before that infamous June 13th date. And the one that always pops in my mind for some reason is that Lindor walk-off home run against the Cardinals, even though that was that game they actually blew in the 9th inning, which they actually didn't do very much last year. Because they had Edwin Diaz, but bye. But yeah, Mets playing the Cardinals. I think it was a Friday night. They're wearing the black uniform, sold out crowd, and Lindor just like crashes this ball into the right field seats. And he, the second he makes contact, he does that Lindor lean, as I like to call it. And when he does that before they even show the behind the plate camera, you just know the game is over. I remember jumping up from my seat wherever I was watching the game and immediately cheering. It just felt like the Mets didn't have very many swaggy kind of wins last year, really cool walk-offs. As we know, they had no 9th inning comeback. So like these moments were in very short supply in general. So, it's nothing insane to write home about, but it's just, I don't know. Anytime I think about, remember when the team was good, when things were fun, that home run always pops into my mind for whatever reason. And it's Lindor's first walk-off home run in his Mets career. And I believe still his only one so far.
It is still his only one in a Mets uniform.
Yeah.
So can I just read you the pitching lines from this game for the Mets? Because you mentioned they blew a save. It wasn't Edwin Diaz who blew the save. He was off this night. So David Peterson went 5 1/3. Then Max Kranick came in and got an inning and 2/3 to lower his ERA to 1.35 on the season. Then Ryan Stanek came in and threw a scoreless 8th inning to keep his ERA at 0 on the season. And Huskar Brazoban had the 9th inning, gave up a home run to Brendan Donovan, but ends up getting the win. That home run, by the way, that 1 inning of 1 earned run raised his ERA to 1.35 as the Mets improved to 13-7. This was game 2 of what was a 4-game sweep for the New York Mets.
It was fun. Vibes were high at that point still.
So now that I get the last pick, I get to say some honorable mentions, which I will also co-sign. Clay Holmes, game 161 would have totally mattered if I wasn't reliving how 2007 and 2008 went. But thank you, Clay Holmes, for that 6-inning performance. I will also shout out David Peterson's complete game, which actually was the last high point because he threw a complete game, and then the next day Sanger gets hurt, but they win. And then the losing and the 93 games of hell start for the remaining 3.5 months of the season. Brandon Nimmo's 9 RBI game, his home run to tie the game in that comeback against Chicago, which also had a Francisco Alvarez home run to be the go-ahead home run. I will also say the Edwin Diaz escape against the Reds. I'm reading off your list, but the
shoe game.
Escape. So he loads the bases with nobody out. He needs to change his cleats, and then I believe it's strikeout, ground out. It's either strikeout, ground out, or strikeout, ground out.
It's 2 strikeouts. One was I believe Ellie De La Cruz went down looking as the second out. And then the last out, I forget who was batting. I think Gavin Lux was batting as the last batter. Ripped one to first base and or second, the right side of the infield.
Not first. You're right. Yeah,
Luis Angel Acuna makes a play that no other infielder on the Mets would have made last year. And throws the ball to Edwin Diaz covering first base because Pete Alonso dove and he missed the ball. And thankfully, Edwin Diaz, who learned from his mistake in 2024 in Atlanta, covered the base. And by like a step or two, they get the out. And again, felt like the win that was going to bury the Reds. And of course, Reds win the next two and the Mets lose on a tiebreaker. But this is the best moments. We're not going to talk about that part.
Yes. Still an honorable mention for me. Yes. It was Nick Marte got the first strikeout. Ellie De La Cruz struck out looking. And now that he's gone, I can say it. Pete Alonso inexplicably diving for the ball, making it so Edwin Diaz had to cover at first base. Of all the defenses of Pete Alonso that I've been making over the past 3 weeks, I will not miss him ranging entirely too far to the right on what ends up being routine ground balls, especially now that they have a Gold Glover playing second base. My actual pick, although I didn't say one more honorable mention, Jonah Tong's MLB debut. I was in attendance for it. The Mets actually did something nice for me. I don't even know if I told you this. So it's a Friday night at Citi Field. They play the Marlins. They win the game 19-8, I think.
It was weird.
Luis Torrens pitches the ninth inning and gives up a bunch of home runs. And they had to bring in Stanek in, and it was like, oh, we figured it out. Let them see Luis Torrens first, and then Stanek will be effective. He came in and struck out the side after that.
I watched that game.
My tickets didn't work when I showed up to Citi Field. It looked like, and I bought it through one of the apps, one of the standard apps that everybody like reads podcast ads for. And apparently it was one of the apps that has been dealing with a lot of fraud lately. So the person scanning tickets lets me in, being like, whatever, it's fine, go in. The person who has the same seats comes over and is like, yeah, your ticket hasn't even been scanned, man. Get out of my seats. We go talk to the Mets. I'm thinking I'm about to get kicked out of Citi Field after bringing my wife on a Friday night. We go talk to the Mets, explain what happened. They're like, oh yeah, we've had some problems with this lady. Hold on. They leave. Come back 5 minutes later. What's your email address that you use? I give them my email. They leave. Come back 5 minutes later. Check your ballpark account. We just gave you 2 new tickets, and we got upgraded to actually like better seats.
Oh wow!
For the game. So they didn't do a lot of right last year. They did that right. They took care of a lifelong Mets fan, and it was probably my actual personal favorite moment is that the Mets took care of me, even if they didn't take care of their pitching last year. My actual moment will be the 4th of July when. Now, here's the thing. I almost went with the Saturday series at Yankee Stadium because it was the day after. It was Juan Soto's return to Yankee Stadium. They're booing him all weekend. He was terrible all weekend, so I didn't want to pick it. I was in the building for the Saturday game wearing the Soto jersey that's behind me, but also wearing a Knicks hat. And you want to talk about a theme for last season? Everything good about the Mets had very little to do with the Mets. And I got to enjoy a Saturday Mets win that Diaz struck out Judge to end the game. And any Yankee fan I wanted to talk shit to was coming up to me and saying, like, go Knicks. And it was just very much a Knicks party because the day before they eliminated the Celtics. I will still pick the 4th of July in which, despite leadoff, the pitchers for the Mets this game are inexplicable. How the Mets won this baseball game despite the pitching. I'll go through them in a second, Rich. They go down 2-0. Leadoff batter, Jason Dominguez home run. Second batter, Aaron Judge home run. Bottom of the first inning, Soto goes deep with a man on off of Marcus Stroman to silence said Yankee fans that had spent the month dancing on his grave and continuing what was a very hot stretch during the month of June into July. That moment in particular, but then also Jeff McNeil homering off of now New York Met Luke Weaver to eventually give the Mets a win. Do you remember who got the final 6 outs of this baseball game?
Oh boy. Well, didn't they have to bring in Edwin Diaz because the bullpen was blowing it, or did he just warm up in that game?
I got you. I got you ready. So Diaz was off Like wasn't able to pitch because of how they had been forced to use him in recent games. So in this game, 4th of July, 2025, it was a day game, if I remember correctly. Yes, it was a Friday afternoon game. The pitchers for the Mets in this game, Rich MacLeod, they opened with Justin Hagenman having to start.
Yes,
they then went to an Austin Warren for the next inning and an inning and 2/3. They then went to Brazoban.
Yep.
And now we got through 7 innings with the lead. And for the final
started
6 outs,
farting around.
Not Stanek. For the final 6 outs, they went to Reed Garrett to throw 29 pitches and get a 6-out 1-run save. That the entire time I was like, they're going to lose this. Like he's going to give up multiple runs here. He had just had one of those stretches where he couldn't get anybody out. I remember leaving that game thinking, all right, that's a rabbit out of your hat game that you're going to need at the end of the season when you're dealing with 1 and 2 game playoffs or tiebreakers. Little did I know it wasn't going to matter at all. Would have actually preferred they lost and not have been tied with the Reds at the end of the season. But in the moment, I got to celebrate an improbable Mets win, and I got to celebrate around a lot of Yankee fans that I also call in-laws. So, yeah, that was one of the fun days of the Mets season, beating the Yankees on the 4th of July.
Yeah, that was a fun one, and that was when the Yankees were at their most down bad last year as well. And when the Mets seemed like they were coming out of their tailspin because they had won a series against the Brewers right before the Brewers went nuclear, and then took the first 2 from the Yankees before Cody Bellinger, a potential other future Met, made a shoestring catch and prevented us from sweeping them on a Sunday.
And in that 9th inning of the game that the Mets lost to the Yankees, now Met Devin Williams gets the save, and in the first at bat, former Yankee now Met Luis Torrens strikes out on a horrific strike 3 call, which made Mets manager, former Yankee bench coach Carlos Mendoza get ejected. One of the few ejections he had last season. So,
and of course, you have Luis Rojas, former Mets manager, current Yankee third base coach. You mentioned Marcus Stroman, former Met locker room cancer to Yankee locker room cancer to DFA'd. A lot of crossover.
I'm trying to find if Paul Blackburn pitched. Oh no, game 2 of the series. You know who got the win for the New York Mets in their 12-6 victory?
Wasn't that Austin Warren?
No, game 2 of the series. Former Yankee Frankie Montas goes 5 2/3, gives up 4 runs, and gets the win. And I think it was his only win as a New York Met. Yeah. Good
Frankie
times.
Montas. I don't even classify, I forget that he's a former Yankee.
I don't think any franchise is claiming him anytime soon. I will just say that. The Brewers don't. The Mets, unfortunately, did for half a season. That was a Stern special. Okay, I think we did it justice. The best moments of 2025. I very much hope this list is better in 2026, because if it isn't, something went terribly wrong and people will need to lose their jobs.
Yeah, I mean, you look at these 6 moments that we picked, and one was in spring training, and the other 5 had to be like, but don't ask me what happened literally the next day.
Oh, what a year. What a year 2025 was for our baseball team.
But it's almost over.
I don't think any one of these makes the top 6 if we did a 2024 list.
No, because honestly, if we wanted to be really real, and I was trying to keep it positive, but if I wanted to be really real, what my top moment would have been was when the season was over, because I didn't want to watch it anymore. Like, that was gut wrenching to watch, and I was angry, and we did our live on YouTube, and I was pretty upset. But like, the relief that I felt 2 days later, not having to watch the Mets get like their shit kicked in by the Dodgers on national TV at 9 p.m. and I could just lay in my bed instead and do anything else. I was like, I'm so glad that this miserable season is over. So just another honorable mention.
The Mets improved when they beat the Yankees on that Saturday to 52-38, and the Yankees fell to 48-41. That's how far the Yankees had fallen at that point.
Yeah.
And the Mets were 42-48, about to have an atrocious second half of the season. They were 55-41 at the All-Star break. And went, 28 and 41 to 79, 28 and 38 the second half of the season. So
stinky.
Yeah. Not great, Bob, but however, we'll do one more show. By the way, will probably be something evergreen that we record that gives us we'll make some resolutions, some wishes for 2026. So stay tuned for that. I believe we can make a programming note. We will go live over the next 2 weeks. Next 2 weeks if something happens. But we're gonna go enjoy the holidays if we potentially can. We hope you all do as well. So as far as next week is concerned, again, we will go live if something is worth going live for. They signed Cody Bellinger, we will go live. But we'll have one more episode for you that drops next Sunday, or I guess next Monday. And then, off to 2026 we go. Rich, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
David Stearns, Steve Cohen, if you do make a move in the next 2 weeks, please don't do it on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, my girlfriend's birthday, or New Year's Eve. Thank you very much.
What's your girlfriend's birthday?
December 30th, so the day before New Year's Eve.
So my mom's birthday is the 29th. So I will ask for another day that you don't. It's just the 25th, the 24th, the 29th, the 30th, or the 31st. The 28th, go nuts.
Go
buddy.
Crazy.
Make all the moves you want. In fact, I'd prefer it. I'm home that day.
Or do it tomorrow.
You know what? Do it tomorrow. Why not? I only have a little bit of Christmas shopping left. That's a lie. I have to do all my Christmas shopping in the next 3 days.
I will say the other thing before Christmas is most of the Mets moves, or moves that have affected the Mets for whatever reason, seem to all be happening at 11 o'clock in the morning when I can't go live because I have a day job. I am fully off from work for 2 weeks. So if the Mets are making daytime moves in the next 2 weeks, other than the holidays, we could actually go live right when they happen. So
we can.
That's also good news because I have nothing else going on.
David, you got the green light. You heard that. Rich gave you the green light to make a move. Maybe that's what he's been waiting for.
That's what he's been waiting for.
Clearly, that's what he's been waiting for. You did give him the green light. Thank you, Mets fans, as always, for tuning in to another episode of the Just Mets podcast. We appreciate all your support over the past 2 months. Numbers have been really great. We're trending toward 2,000 subs on YouTube. We've been in the top 50 consistently on the Apple podcast charts as well. So we appreciate that. The way you can help us, if you are an Apple subscriber specifically, leave a 5-star rating and a review. If we get enough, I'll start reading them live on the air. So go leave the nicest comment, ask a question if you'd like to. Maybe we'll answer it live on the air, or not live, recorded on the air. But yeah, dude, please help out the show. It'd be really great if you can do that. We'll be back in a not too distant future. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah to everybody celebrating out there. Until next time, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Let's go Mets. And in the words of the immortal Gary Cohen, we are out of here.